Hello dear friends, welcome to Spiritism and the Media. Today I'd like to invite you to take a moment with me for us to study a little bit about a topic very common to our daily life today, the social media. I know I've talked about social media before, but today I'd like to take a different approach about it. The way that I'd like us to think about social media is for us to see the role that we have there. For example, when we are posting or when we are receiving the information from others, and compare that with the roles of the obsessor and the obsessed. Usually when we talk about obsessor, we think about that very evil spirit that is always trying to lead us to the wrong path. And we do not see ourselves as obsessors, but also, only and always we see ourselves as the victims, the one who are being obsessed by others. And if we go to any of the books from the codifications, we can find more information about that. And usually what Kardec brings is that we can have different types of obsessors and obsessed. For example, we can have obsession from an discarnate spirit who is obsessing the incarnate spirit, that means us, we that are here on planet Earth. We can have they obsessing themselves, like a spirit obsessing another spirit, both discarnate. We can have us here obsessing the ones who are there, and we can also be the obsessors of the ones around us. Yes, that's also true, and we don't think about that. We don't see ourselves as the obsessors, as the ones who can be sending bad vibrations or trying to lead the others around us here on earth to the wrong path. So for us to think a little bit about that, I brought here the Spirit's book. When we go to chapter 9 of the Spirit's book, we have some questions that Kardec is asking to the spirits about guardian angels. And not only they talk about guardian angels here, but they also talk about protective spirits, familiar spirits, and other spirits that are with us in our daily activity. So I'm going to read the question 511 just for us to see what they talk here. If you want, we go to the question 511, we see, with the exception of protective spirits, are there wicked spirits who attach themselves to individuals to tempt them and cause them to struggle between good and bad? And the spirits say, attached is not accurate. It's very true that bad spirits try to draw you from the path of righteousness when they find an opportunity to do so. However, when one of them attaches to an individual, it does simply because it hopes the person is going to listen to them. In such a case, there is a struggle between a good and a bad spirit, and whoever successfully influences that individual prevails. So here they are saying that attached would not be the accurate word, but like they are trying to draw us to the path of evil things. And like we have this struggle because it hopes the person is listening to them. And the same we can apply here on social media. When we post something on social media, we hope that the other person is listening to us. But if we think not all the time the way that we post, what we spread, is actually something that is going to uplift the other person. Especially when we think in a situation that we do not like very much that person, but we follow them anyway, and we go and we see the person doing something very fun, something that I wish I were doing that and not that person. So that comes that envy, so I can be envy that person. So it's actually a way for me to be an obsessor of that person because I will be sending some bad vibrations. So that's the first point that I'd like us to understand. So we do not need to try to convince that person, to try to persuade that person with words or anything else. Many times just by sending those vibrations, we can actually be disturbing that person. And how many times it happens if we think about our timeline on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, especially Instagram, that people usually post some happy moments of their lives, and especially when we are not as happy as them, or as the popular saying says, that the grass on the neighbors is always greener than ours. So usually we find ourselves with a little bit envy. So we can find ourselves like seeing those pictures and like sending those vibrations to the persons, and many times we can actually write some bad comments, some comments that we know that it's going to hurt a little bit that person, and we write that anyway. So it is a way of obsessing that person. If we actually think about that, it is a way of obsessing that person, because we are attaching ourselves to that person. Like many times we go and we check our social media many times every day just to see what this or that person is doing, just to see what's happening in other people's lives. So actually what happened in the past, that we used to go, like we had the neighbors, that always we had that neighbor in the street that you would know the life of everybody else and would do the gossips. Today it's very easy for us because we don't need to be in the same place, we don't need to be physically in the same street, in the same city. We can like follow someone from the other side of the world and still like envy that person and send those bad vibrations. So it's important for us to think a little bit about that, because many times we don't stop to think about it, and we may be doing some things that are not the things that we'd like to do. Many times we are like sending those feelings without noticing that. So it's very important for us to stop and to think about what those how the way that I act on social media makes me feel. So what are the feelings that come to my mind? What are the feelings that come to my heart? The thoughts that I have when I see certain posts? And we have many tools that are very easy ways for us to stop that. Just we can mute someone, we can unfollow someone, or we can simply not open that tool in that day. So we need to be aware of how we feel, how we react, and knowing that we are not the victims all the time, or many times we are not a victim at all, but we are the ones, we may be the ones who are influencing or trying to influence our friends, or the ones that we call friends, but many times we do not have so much good feelings towards them. So we need to understand that and to try to better ourselves and to change the way that we feel, to change the way that we act. Of course, saying that seems so easy, but we know that it's not. So it's like baby steps. Those steps that I can talk by myself, I try to take those baby steps every day in my life. So I try to monitor how I feel when I open, for example, the Instagram or the Twitter. And if I'm not feeling that well, it's better for me to close that instead of trying to go and to see what's happening there. And it can makes me feel bad, and I know that I will be sending also that negativity to others. So it's very important for us to see how we feel, how it's bringing to the thoughts that it's bringing to our minds, the feeling it's bringing to our hearts, and so we can use those social media in a healthy way. So just to close our lesson today, I'm opening a page from the book Happy Life by Joana de Angelis and Divaldo Franco randomly. So we have here the lesson 170. Act calmly under all circumstances. There are many people who are living in a climate of desperation and exhausting rush. They run over others and let them run over them. In essentials, hallucination. They do not enjoy the fruit of their achievements, nor do they enjoy what they have already accumulated. Serenity is the sister of blessedness, since it provides the pleasure that blesses and gives us satisfaction. Reharmonize yourself, driving the car of your hours with calm and living with the serene gladness of being on the earth. Thus, you will be able to advance towards God, our final goal. So thank you so much for your company. May God bless all of us, and see you next week.